The following contest is scheduled for one fall, and it's for the PCW Tag Team Championship! Coming down the aisle, your PCW Tag Team Champions, the men of 2,000 holds, Natal and Steve!
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 32 of Podcast Championship Wrestling, hosted by your podcast tag team champions of the world, the men of 2,000 holds, Natal and Steve. How you doing today, Steve?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited. Episode 32, that's awesome.
Yeah, 32, Wrestlemania 32. We're on the road to Wrestlemania. This is a kind of Wrestlemania themed inspired episode. Not really, but
not really, but everything we talk about from now on is going to be the road to WrestleMania stuff, so whatever, we worked it in.
Yeah, we worked it in. We fit it in some way, shape, or form. And since we're already on the road to WrestleMania, let's get on the information superhighway and follow us on Twitter at SoSaysNatal1. We have an Instagram at SoSaysNatal. Our Facebook page is strong. Keep getting it stronger at facebook.com/SoSaysNatal. And don't forget, you could find the Podcast Championship Wrestling Podcast, So Says Natal Podcast, and Fight Your Rival on Stitcher, SoundCloud, and iTunes. On iTunes, rate, comment, share, subscribe, 5 stars, all that free, wonderful stuff. It helps us. It helps you. You feel better. You stop having night terrors because I decided not to cast any more spells on you. Steve has nothing to do with the night terrors.
Nothing to do with the night terrors. I have everything to do with them.
Let's get some NXT in, right?
yeah.
Why
Get
not?
away from the night terrors.
Yeah, from night terrors to NXT. And we'll go back into the night terrors when we talk about Raw. Brum, dum, cha. Whatever. Oh, and by the way, WrestleMania 8 is on the screen right now. And Undertaker is in the ring with Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah, look at Jake's awesome tights for this match.
Yo, those tights don't look finished.
You think they had more to put on the tights? But
yeah, just the blue around the thighs, and that's it.
They spent too much time on the what is that, like a woman with the snake wrapped around her?
Yeah, I think they did.
And they were like, oh, we can't finish it.
Yeah, and he was like, just give me my tights.
I'm leaving after this anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, back to NXT. The only thing we're going to bring up is Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe. It's the only thing really to bring up. The last week's episode was more of a filler episode. Yeah. It was what it was. It wasn't bad, but there was nothing
to talk about.
Nothing to talk about. So we find out from William Regal that in 2 weeks we are going to get Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe once again, but this time it's 2 out of 3 falls. So there's no more shenanigans. There's no more tomfoolery going around. Referees have more than enough chances to count again if it ends up in a draw with people falling over each other. Just get it right. So that's what we're getting in 2 weeks.
It should be exciting. 2 out of 3 falls between Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe. I'm hoping for something better than what we got the first time, because the first time was like really good near the end, but a little like slow building up to it. And this is 2 out of 3 falls. They kind of got to go all out, and we should have a clear, defined winner at the end of this. I'm still hoping it's Joe.
Yeah, me too. I still hope it's Joe. This whole like wishy-washy thing, I don't know. It's kind of odd.
Like it was fine the first time.
And then the second time I felt it was a bit too much. I guess because the first time was done so well with having one guy and 2 submission holds.
Yeah.
Tapping
and then
out.
2 people can like lay claim to it.
So this whole falling all over each other like wheelbarrows.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. But we'll find out who will be the victor. Obviously, the men of 2,000 holds are rooting for Samoa Joe.
Yep.
So with NXT out of the way, let's just talk about WWE, the universe in general.
What's going on right now?
What's going on? The main people that's going on is AJ Styles. He's new. He's hot. He's the greatest thing that they have going right now. He is P1. He is player 1. No, he is the phenomenal one. Now that AJ Styles and Chris Jericho's feud is pretty much done, it's wrapped up. You know, we saw the final conclusion at Fastlane where AJ beat Jericho to get the 2-1 victory over him.
It was a nice match.
It was a really good match. And, you know, we mentioned it last week on last week's podcast. If you haven't heard it, we'll wait. Go and listen to last week's podcast and then just come back to this one.
We'll just wait on you.
Yeah. And if you just finished listening to it, welcome back to the podcast. So, AJ Styles and Chris Jericho, where does that leave them? You would think AJ automatically would go with Kevin Owens because Kevin Owens threw AJ out in the Royal Rumble and said, welcome to the WWE. Kevin Owens is currently Intercontinental Champion now.
Yeah, AJ's beat Chris Jericho. He's like, I beat a name, so like, why shouldn't my name be in line for a shot at the IC title? Like, it kind of makes sense.
Not only that, but isn't Chris Jericho the highest reigning IC champ, like 9 wins?
9 times.
Yeah, so he's a 9-time champ. He's a Ric Flair of IC titles, and AJ beat him.
Yeah.
he bested him, you know? And
anytime you beat Chris Jericho, you become automatically the #1 contender for the IC title since he has the most reigns. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, exactly. That makes
it
perfect
makes sense. Yeah.
He held it that much. Obviously, he was that good to hold it 9 times.
Mm-hmm. It's a good thing it didn't work that way back in the day when people beat Ric Flair on his way out. Like, oh, wow, now Kenny Dykstra gets a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship? This is awful.
But there's no Kenny Dykstra in here. You don't have nothing to worry about. So the thing you do have to worry about is AJ's not fighting anybody. Really. Now he's a tag team. He's tag teaming with Chris Jericho.
Like now him and Jericho are friends, and they're like, yeah, let's fight together.
And automatically let's fight the New Day. And
let's have a dumb name for our tag team.
Yeah, Y2AJ.
Yeah, Y2AJ. I'm not a fan of it.
Me either. I don't... Anyway, so they had a match on SmackDown. It was Y2AJ and Mark Henry, because Mark Henry joined them because they needed a third partner versus the New Day. And they got the win over the New Day. They beat the tag team champs. So then this past Monday, they wrestled the New Day. Now, without Mark Henry, I guess he couldn't make it or whatever. So it was just the New Day.
And it was just a regular tag match.
Yeah, a regular tag match. And Team Y2AJ won again. So that's 2 wins. Yeah. And me and Steve were watching it, and I was like, yo, shouldn't they technically go for the title now? They beat the tag champs twice.
Yeah, like as much as I really don't care to see it, it makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense logically. Put some type of fire in the tag team title.
It's something different. It is a different team going after the New Day.
Because you got to remember, on Fastlane, New Day cut that very long main event promo talking about that there's no tag teams in the WWE. And I was waiting for like Enzo and Cass to show up or something like that. But no, we got... I guess they scrambled and they were like, you two, Y2AJ, get together. You're the new hot tag team. So you'll be the new competitors for the New Day, which is good competition because it's AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. They're great wrestlers.
Yeah, they're great wrestlers, but I don't know. They're great wrestlers, but at least for me, it almost feels like a little cool down to AJ. It's like, why would you team him in the tag team division where he came in so hot out of the Rumble and had a pretty good feud with Jericho? Like, he should go up, then move him into the tag division, I feel.
I agree, but honestly, the single titles are kind of in a mess right now. Like, I don't know what they're doing with Kalisto. He's still hanging out with Sin Cara. Yeah, Triple H, he just wears more suits than he wrestles, you know, and Kevin Owens is fighting Big Show, which he fought Big Show on SmackDown and beat Big Show because Big Show sat on the ropes and hurt his balls and rolled out and won by a count out. And then they had the same match on Monday Night Raw, and the same thing happened to Kevin Owens, and then Big Show won by a count out. What is this? What's going on?
I don't know. I was kind of hoping for at least a little something a little bit more between the two of them. Nothing great, but I mean, like Big Show and Kevin Owens is something different that we haven't seen before, you know, so it should feel fresh, but it's already just kind of like whatever. I don't care between the two of them. I hope this is something super short term. I hope this is not leading into WrestleMania.
Yeah, I hope not as well. And that's what I mean. Like, they don't know what they're doing with the titles right now. So them as a tag team, sure.
Yeah, just slap them together.
Slap them together. But back to Y2AJ. Basically, next week on Raw, we're going to get that match. We're going to get Y2AJ versus the New Day for the tag team titles. Do you think they're going to win, or do you think this is just a throwaway match?
I don't think they'll win.
So it'll be AJ's second loss because he lost to Jericho, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, and depending on how you book it in the end, maybe it's just like a wash at the end the first time. But I think it's cool that Raw's hyping a match a week in advance. So it's cool that they actually announced this for next week. And I am kind of looking forward to it. As much as I'm not like blown away and it's not where I want to see AJ Styles, it's not like I don't want to see this match either, you know?
Yeah, it's better for him to be in a tag team with Jericho than be on main event superstars like Neville and Stardust, you know? I'll take anything. And I think he feels the same way. He was like, I'll take that. Why not? And the next people who are trying to get that type of gold is Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. So their dynamic duo is finally broken up. They're not a tag team. They're not rolling with each other anymore, thankfully. We were a little worried they were going to go down that route, but they didn't.
No, they're like, you know, our business is done. We did what we needed to do together. Now we both want to be the WWE Divas champ.
Yeah, let's get back to what's important here. Exactly. Keep our eye on the prize. So they had a match on Monday Night Raw to determine who would Charlotte defend her title against at WrestleMania. And
it wasn't a bad match.
It wasn't a bad match. It was a good match. The spot that I remembered from the match was when they were both trying to get their submissions on each other early on in the match. Becky kept trying to go for the bank statement, and Becky Lynch kept going for the disarmer, back and forth, and I thought that was really cool. The finish was weird because they didn't wrestle that long, and Sasha grabbed Becky off the top rope into like a sit-down powerbomb, but she was too tired also, and they both pinned each other just like Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn.
Yeah, it was almost like, what? Are we watching NXT right now, not Raw? Really? They kind of went with that finish so close to something else that they actually air. And yeah, I felt the same way too. It was like they weren't going long enough for like Sasha to all of a sudden like pass out and not be able to sit up for that move. It sets up, hopefully, what I hope in the end is, Charlotte against the two of them. I really hope that's the end result of this at WrestleMania. So, and there's a lot of time to build to WrestleMania, so I guess if it's a little wonky like this at the beginning, fine, but hopefully like settle it for SmackDown this week, because they've announced like the rematches on SmackDown this week.
Yes.
To see who's going to be the number one contender. So
another reason to watch SmackDown, which is pretty cool.
It's cool announcing a match for SmackDown. So again, I want it to end up with a triple threat, but hopefully it's solidified at SmackDown somehow, and then we can build to the three of these women facing off at WrestleMania this year.
Maybe they'll end in a double counter or a double submission.
Or something like that, because like Charlotte's been around like the ringside area for the matches. Like she just like sat by the announcers this episode. I think she mentioned something about being around by the ringside for SmackDown, or maybe it's just all happening in my head. So like that could factor somehow into the match, like Charlotte herself, and that's what leads it to be the three of them.
Yeah, that could make... She could, interfere, and then with her interfering, that's it.
Or Ric Flair would just push Charlotte aside and be like, you know what? She's going to fight the two of you! Woo! Woo! Woo!
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the World Heavyweight title with our current WWE World Heavyweight Champion, The Game, Triple H.
He's your current champion. He's not my champion.
He's my champion, and I am perfectly fine with him being champion right now, because it's better than Roman. I mean, granted, yes, there are other people that deserve to be champion, like the gentleman we're going to talk about also, Dean Ambrose. So Triple H comes out, cuts a promo, wastes the first 15 minutes of Raw, blah, 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 doing all the talk stuff. No one cares. Dean Ambrose finally shows up. Yay! Because, Roman Reigns is not on this episode of Monday Night Raw, which was good.
Triple H broke his face open last week.
Exactly.
Right?
Broke his face open and broke it so bad, and he don't got that Cena juice. He does not have that Lazarus pit, so his nose is still banged up. So Dean Ambrose came in, talked some crazy talk to Triple H, basically told Triple H he knows he's spooked, and he knows that deep down inside, Triple H knows that he can't beat Dean Ambrose, and this, that, and the third. It was fun, and Triple H said he'll give him an answer at the end of the night. And at the end of the night, he gave him an answer, and he basically told him, yeah, I'll give you your match. After he beat the crap out of him, and Dean Ambrose was laying in the ring, and was like, thanks, Triple H. And then Triple H was like, you want it? You got it. You got your title match. So we're going to get a Dean Ambrose versus Triple H. Isn't that awesome, Steve? Dean Ambrose is going to become WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, right? Don't you think? Yeah. He lost the IC title so he could win this. It's his time.
Yeah, I mean, it's Roman Reigns is fighting the champion at WrestleMania. It doesn't have to be Triple H. I mean, it'd be cool if Ambrose would actually win this, but it's not going to end up with Ambrose winning it. Who even knows if he ends up getting the match? There's all
maybe
sorts
Lesnar
of stuff
will
that
just
they can
jump
pull
in and mess it up.
I kind of wanted to be more pumped for this, but maybe it's because we don't buy into the fact of Ambrose going after it. But I guess it's something kind of cool to have Triple H do in the interim, so he's not just walking around with the title on his shoulder since the Rumble.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give it to him. It looked good on him on Monday. That was like a really nice suit he had on, and the title looked good with it. But whatever.
It was that tie. That tie was really
that tie
good.
made it all.
Yeah, the tie did make it all.
But it was kind of cool. I thought Ambrose's promo was cool. The Triple H part was kind of boring. So when Ambrose came out, I did get a little bit more pumped up. And Ambrose did his thing pretty well. And his case, for pointing out how Triple H, didn't want to face him because he knew he couldn't beat him. Yeah. Even if he doesn't believe it, he knows it's something that's going to like get under Triple H's skin. Yeah. That's why I really liked it.
And especially Dean Ambrose says everything so nonchalant and blasé that it kind of sticks in your head.
It was, again, like a kind of long-winded opening segment for Raw, but it led to a match with Ambrose and Del Rio at the end of the night, which I'm not super excited over, but the match itself wasn't too bad.
Yeah, they
did a good job.
Yeah, they did a good job. We don't know who won it because right before we were going to get finished, Triple H showed up and his music kicked in. It was like, yeah, whatever. We don't care about the main event. It's time for me to beat people up.
Yeah, and it was just a replay of the week before, just without the broken face. Triple H just beating Dean Ambrose to death, basically. He went hard on him.
And making Triple H look strong.
And he killed Byron Saxton, too.
Oh, my God. That was, yes. We rewound that part because it was fantastic. Guys, if you didn't see the end of Raw, there's probably a GIF for it already. The internet, I love you guys. There's someone already made a meme of it, most likely. Check out Triple H just tossing Byron Saxton to the side like dog food.
Yeah, just like some weightless nothing,
It was ridiculous. And I think what was the icing on the cake was that he threw his papers afterwards. So you saw his papers flying as well. It added a little hint of comedy to it.
Yeah, it was a fun visual, actually.
Yeah, it was really fantastic.
But, if Triple H is really going to go through with this, it makes sense. Again, he's looking so dominant going into the going into his opponent and going into WrestleMania. But I'm not as excited over this as I should be, I feel.
Yeah, I'm excited for it in the case of at least I'm going to see Triple H wrestle and defend the title before WrestleMania, and it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, where he was just going to literally hold it, and you weren't going to see him in ring or anything until WrestleMania.
And it makes sense because, Ambrose is fighting Lesnar, and Lesnar's a guy where he's got limited dates on his contract. He's not going to be there every week, so you got to kind of do something with Ambrose while Lesnar's not there. So having him with, one of the other big matches at WrestleMania in the interim kind of works in his favor as well.
Especially since there's no pay-per-view this month, so they kind of have to fill that gap.
Yeah, I think they're doing like a live special
they'll most likely
from like Toronto or something like that on the network this month. I don't know if this match is going to happen there, but I think they're doing something on the network this month since there's no actual pay-per-view. So conceivably it could happen there.
Not only that, it's great to have Ambrose and Triple H together right now because Roman Reigns can't talk on the mic. Roman Reigns can't cut a promo really, or carry a segment. So imagine if it was Triple H and Roman Reigns talking to each other for the first 25 minutes.
It would be boring.
It would be very hard to sit through and pay attention. So they got to use Dean Ambrose's skill on the mic to, keep people pumped.
Yeah, and it works for me. I didn't even realize it till halfway through Raw. I was like, oh man, Roman Reigns hasn't been on this episode.
Yeah.
And that's kind of awesome. And it was kind of a shame because even an episode without Roman Reigns was kind of slow and plodding. And, normally I always hope for the episodes of Raw that don't have guys that I don't like. I always want those to be better episodes. So
yeah.
It wasn't as good as last week's. So, last week's I was kind of pumped coming out of it. This week's I was like, all right, you had a couple cool segments, but this isn't really pushing anything more towards WrestleMania.
Yeah,
maybe AJ and Jericho and the New Day, and it's not necessarily something I want to see at WrestleMania.
But there's some stories continuing to unfold. There's more mysteries.
Yeah, and there's still more time
questions being answered also. Yeah, we got plenty of time, but some questions being answered on this episode of Raw is, did Steph get her award? Yeah, she finally got it. She finally got her Vincent J.
People
McMahon
were asking
award.
that question?
Yeah, people were. Some people were.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
And she cut her speech, and in the ring, I don't remember what it was. There was nothing really memorable about it, but good for her. She got her reward. From one McMahon to another, let's talk about Vincent K. McMahon. He was there. Good old Vinnie Mac was there. No chance in hell.
And the crowd really kind of didn't care this week.
Which was weird. I don't know if the crowd was asleep or they were all just checking their phones, but he didn't get a huge pop or anything. And he even said it. He acknowledged it. He was like, where's my pop? You don't know who I am?
Yeah, it's just no, we know who you are. It's just we don't like what you're giving us right now too much, so we'll be quiet.
Which is interesting. Which is the worst thing to do in wrestling is to say nothing. If you would have gotten tons of boos, it would have worked. Yeah, no reaction is the worst. And it was kind of dead silent. It was kind of odd.
I kind of agreed with the crowd, though.
Yeah, and I agree, too. All this time wasted on Raw, just all this yabby talking, they could be developing their entire roster. But back to Vince McMahon. He was there not to just be upset that the crowd didn't care that he was there. He was there to talk about The Undertaker, because that's his instrument of destruction, The Undertaker. So Undertaker came out, had the straight-up SummerSlam Undertaker intro, flames and all. Yeah, the pyro, lightning, magic, 7-minute intro, looking like a Final Fantasy summoning special. You're just like, what? I can't skip this. But it's The Undertaker. You let it pass.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch. Even watching it, I was like, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I was fine with it too. Cool. It's The Undertaker. So he finally gets in the ring, and his promos even shorter than his intro.
Way shorter than the entrance.
And he basically tells Vince McMahon, hey, I'll do what you want me to do, but the blood of your son is on your hands. He's like, it's not my problem. When I kill him, when he's dead, that's on you.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to go home to my wife and my kids. Mm-hmm. You're going to mourn yours.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically what Undertaker said to Vince.
That's what he said to Vince. He's like, I'm going to destroy your entire legacy, your 5th, 6th, 7th generation. McMahon's dead.
Yeah, right, so I can't wait to WrestleMania. I really want to see Undertaker just destroy him now. Why not?
It's exciting. He's just going to go in there and mop the floor with him. But we can't forget Shane O'Mac has done some crazy things in the ring. Yeah, he hasn't been in the ring for a couple. But again, Undertaker's not a continuous competitor, but it's the Phenom. Come on. Can't really compare Undertaker's career to Shane's.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. And if you're wondering, how does Shane feel about this? He just pretty much found out he's going to be murdered in April. The first week of April, he's going to die. So before he dies, I guess he wants to give out his last will and testament to us, because he's going to show up next week on Monday Night Raw to address the things that the Undertaker said and what his father said. Because his father called him a son of a bitch.
Yeah, he was harsh at the end. I cannot remember the wording, but oh god, yeah, about being dead to him.
Yeah, he's like, you're dead to me. I'm cutting you out of the will.
He's not going to be the son of my heart. You're going to be a son of a bitch.
Yeah,
I believe is what he said.
Yeah, because he's going to disown him.
Yeah.
So he's like, you're not going to be a son of mine. You're going to be a son of a bitch.
Yeah, just something ridiculous.
That's that I wish you died in the womb Nikki Bella status stuff that you don't say on TV.
Yeah, it's funny how that always just gets played out in front of everyone in the WWE. But yeah, what's Shane going to say to retort what Undertaker said this week?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, he's probably going to say, here comes the money. Please take it, Undertaker, and don't show up at WrestleMania. Money, money, money. Maybe he'll trump it out, try to pay out the Undertaker.
You think that's going to be Shane McMahon's retort? He's going to buy his way out, Ted DiBiase style?
No, I bet you there's going to be a clause or something that he could pick a wrestler to wrestle for him, and it's going to be Braun Strowman. And that's what's going to happen. Then I'll be even more upset, because I'd rather watch Shane O'Mac versus Undertaker any day over Braun Strowman.
I agree with you. Yeah, I do not want to see Braun Strowman versus The Undertaker.
Yeah, actually, don't make that happen. I don't know why I said that. So before I get myself into any more trouble, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
We are.
Yes, we are. And when we come back, we're going to talk about props.
Yeah, props. Why not, right?
Why not?
So many wrestlers come down to the rings with props.
Yeah, and some of them are memorable and should actually be inducted into the Hall of Fame, because we got some other stuff being inducted. Oh, we'll talk about that after the break. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll be right back.
You can catch Natal on 3 separate podcasts. Yes, 3. You can catch him on Fight Your Rival with Michael Andronico, Podcast Championship Wrestling with the other half of The Men of 2000 Holds, Steve, and So Says Natal podcasts. You can find all 3 podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher. And you can follow him on Twitter at SoSaysNatal1, on Instagram at SoSaysNatal, and on Facebook, facebook.com/SoSaysNatal. You can support any of the podcasts by sending your comments, questions, and suggestions to sosaysnatal@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe across all platforms. You have just been educated.
Welcome back to episode 32 of Podcast Championship Wrestling with your host, the Podcast Tag Team Champions of the World, the Men of 2000 Holds. Before the break, we got really excited about the Hall of Fame and putting props in the Hall of Fame. So before we start talking about all our favorite props in wrestling of all time, let's talk about this year's Hall of Fame. So the first one I was mentioned is Sting.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, you gotta have Sting.
Only 2 matches in the WWE, but they own WCW. He basically was WCW.
Yeah.
So many other people were in there. The Hall of Fame doesn't really mean much, I feel, but when there's those big names that go in there, it's like the few times where you're like, yeah, they should be there, and Sting should be there, so that's cool that Sting's going in.
And the next inductee is The Godfather.
Yeah, you see, that's one of those things that makes me go, like, you see the WWE Hall of Fame, it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah, they'll put anybody
I didn't hate The Godfather, but I don't feel like The Godfather was a Hall of Fame worthy person, you know?
I mean, I can understand he's been in the business longer. I would have rather him being inducted in the Hall of Fame as Papa Shango.
Do you think Papa Shango had a better career than The Godfather?
Yeah, he fought the Warrior.
The Godfather was an IC champ.
Oh, was he?
Probably like a tag.
Yeah, whatever. But I just didn't like The Godfather. That was one of those gimmicks. I was just like, this is just too much.
Oh, I like that gimmick.
But it got over. Yeah,
man.
People really
I was
liked
like
it.
18 or whatever at the time. I was all about it.
I was like, ugh, I can't stand him. But
I was like, look at these ugly women. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But he's in the Hall of Fame, not the ugly women. The Godfather himself.
Yeah, but I'm sure some of the ugly women will come out with him when he...
Most likely. We'll see what happens. Anyway, the next people that were mentioned for this year's Hall of Fame is about time, and it makes sense because they are in Texas. The Fabulous Freebirds.
Yeah, that's awesome. It makes sense. The Texas thing is cool, but they should have been in like a long time ago.
They had their tag team because you know it. You like the New Day? That was the Freebirds.
Yeah, paved the way for so much stuff from like
Wyatt,
entrance music
Freebirds.
and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah,
Music as well, yeah. And singing their own music, weren't they the first ones
like
to
one
actually
of the
have
earlier
their
ones that I could think of. Yeah, that did that. Just their style and
Mm-hmm.
the way, you know, the flamboyancy that they brought to the ring was fantastic. The fuse that they had with the Von Erichs,
Yep.
you know, back in the day, they were just a really awesome tag team, and it's about time they go in there. I'm excited to actually. It's one of the few times I'll actually probably like watch at least one of the segments on the network for it, because I normally don't sit through it. But I'd like to see what Michael P.S. Hayes has to say when he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. So that should be cool.
Yeah, because he should, like you say, he should have been there a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the manager to the Hardy Boys. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
forget that.
He was smiling Doc Hendricks.
There you go. Smiling Doc Hendricks.
That was awful.
If the Godfather, I think smiling Doc Hendricks trumps the Godfather.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, absolutely. But it's kind of cool. They'll obviously announce a few more. There's normally like a celebrity one, but it should be cool to see who's going into the Hall of Fame this year. It's cool because like last year Macho Man went in, and he was one of those people that like people had been clamoring for forever to go into the Hall of Fame, and now this year the Freebirds go in, and they were another group that's been like, you know, like, why aren't they in the Hall of Fame? So it's cool that WWE's like, here, shut up. Like, I'll take it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I've been asking for the Freebirds, and I've been asking for Macho Man forever, but there's a lot of controversy about it apparently on the internet.
Yeah, there's always whatever.
Yeah, whatever. But what there isn't no controversy on is what our favorite props were in wrestling.
Yeah, like some of our favorite props. This is actually kind of cool. I mean, we always ask you guys, you know, like write in with like comments or ideas or anything like that. And this one wasn't ours. This was like a write-in. It was like, what are some of our favorite props?
Yeah, an actual suggestion for segment on PCW. So thank you so much for contributing. And, you know, instead of your comments this time, we are actually
just
dedicating,
talking about like something that you wanted to hear us talk about.
Dedicating a portion of our podcast to what you want to hear. To start this list off with a bang, the first prop that I need to talk about is the chainsaw from Chainsaw Charlie.
That's one of your favorite props of all time.
Yeah, because it's a chainsaw. Who brings a chainsaw to a wrestling match?
I don't know, a psychopath?
Yeah, a psychopath. But the thing that bothered me about, I love the chainsaw, but the thing that upset me, I was like, WWE, you're trying to sell me Terry Funk with a nylon stocking on his head and calling him Chainsaw Charlie. I was like, that's obviously Terry Funk. He's coming out with Cactus Jack. Come on. But I was like, it's crazy. He's wheeling a chainsaw, and he would dance and spin around with it. It reminded me of Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw. So I was like, it's nuts that they're allowing this guy to bring a complete chainsaw into the ring as a prop. So I like Chainsaw Charlie's chainsaw.
I thought that was cool. I mean, and I think that was the whole idea, too, the whole Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing, which I always thought was kind of cool. But I also like the fact that you really like this prop, and you just hate the fact that they were trying to pass Terry Funk off as someone else.
It's so bad, yeah.
So you would have been fine with just Terry Funk coming down to the ring with the chainsaw?
Yeah.
You would have been like, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Terry
it
Funk
makes
with the
sense. He's
chainsaw.
a king of hardcore or whatever. You know, it was during the 90s hardcore time. What's crazy? What's more hardcore than a chainsaw? You know, bringing a knife. Well, Brian Pillman brought a gun. But that was in his own house.
Yeah, he was defending his stuff.
Yeah, he was defending his stuff. But yeah, Chainsaw Charlie's chainsaw.
No, that's a crazy way to start the list.
Yeah,
a chainsaw.
With a chainsaw.
One of the my favorite props is actually one of the more modern ones, and I guess you could actually use it as like a defense mechanism against Chainsaw Charlie chainsaw. Is the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Yeah, that would work. That could deflect some chainsaw swipes.
But I think it's cool that the guy that's won this, you know, like big deal of a match has something to walk around and flaunt it with, and it works well. Like if you're a heel, you can use it to hit him, and I kind of like how they've customized it to certain guys through the years. Like RVD's had like his spray painted with his stuff on it. I loved when Damian Sandow had it, and like they changed it to like a brown leather like attaché case.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. Seth Rollins just looked cool with it.
Yeah.
You know, that big gold briefcase.
Not
That's
only
kind of
that,
like
but
the
he
standard
carried
one.
it like a title, and that's what I liked about it. His run as the Money in the Bank, it meant something because he was always talking about it. He always presented it. He like was really pumped.
Yeah, it was always front and center. He lifted the briefcase
like when
he came out.
Yeah, when Sheamus recently was, you know, the Money in the Bank champion, he would put it on the ground to do his intro.
Yeah, like his normal intro.
Pick it up and then hug it. And that's it. And come down the ring hugging.
And Seth had like a special intro as the Money in the Bank champion. And that's awesome. It's a way to integrate it into the character. And it shows how like some guys use it differently. I mean, look, you bought into Seth Rollins as more of a contender because of the way he owned it.
Yeah, and it made sense when he cashed in at WrestleMania. I was like, yeah, he treated this thing like the perfect opportunity, like his golden ticket and it was time to go to meet Willy Wonka in that chocolate factory.
That's a really good analogy, and I kind of like it. Some of the good guys like carry it that way. Like when they have it really quick, it doesn't mean anything. No. But the guys that hold on to it for a while, it's kind of cool. Like I remember Dolph's was all like beat up and crushed from all the times he had used it, so it was kind of cool. It was like a battle damaged one. I thought when Miz had it, he carried it really well because he was like this, like pompous, like businessy kind of guy. So it worked fairly well for the Miz too. So I think like with certain guys, the Money in the Bank briefcase like almost lifts them up. Like they hold it like it is an actual title.
The next prop on the list only was held by one man, and that was the model Rick Martel. And that was the Arrogance model. I loved it. He kept his perfume, his cologne, his fragrance, the Arrogance in that spray.
Yeah,
and it was like a DDT spray.
DDT spray container.
Yeah. You would put pesticides on flowers. And that's what he would spray his victims with.
That's what he sprayed Jake the Snake in the eye with and blinded him.
Blinded him with arrogance. He was blinded by arrogance. It's just
so good.
Yeah, it's so good. It writes itself.
And it was a really cool thing. I used to like the way he would like spray it across and like waft it in his little promos back in the day and stuff. It was a cool thing. I think he only really used it, as far as I remember, like for most of that Jake run, maybe a little bit before it. But like while he had it, it was a really cool thing and it stands out.
It's one of the things I remember him from his gimmick. Like when you say model Rick Martel, first thing I think of is that spray bottle.
Yeah, I agree. It was really cool. And keeping it kind of older school, Jimmy Hart's megaphone.
Oh, gosh,
such a good prop. I mean, it worked well. You could toss it to his guys, and they can use it to cheat to win the match. When it was finally time for their comeuppance, it could be used against him to lose the match. And then just his smack talking, him being so annoying, you were able to hear him loud and clearly the whole time.
Basically how we hear Xavier Woods every time the New Day is wrestling.
Yes, but that's because of fantastic microphones now.
Yeah, fantastic microphones. But he's this generation's Jimmy Hart. If we didn't have the audio technology we have now, I bet you he would have a megaphone as opposed to a trumpet.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I totally agree. But the megaphone was just so perfect with Jimmy Hart. Like, it stayed with him for forever. It's synonymous with Jimmy Hart. No one's used it really since then. No one can really use it because automatically, as a wrestling fan, you would think Jimmy Hart. Like, that says a lot. And what a big deal. And it's just an object that he brought, but he was able to turn it into something special. And oh God, I remember hating Jimmy Hart as a kid because of all his yapping and screaming, and it was because of that megaphone.
I was like, oh, shut up. But he was always with the hottest tag teams. He was with the Hart Foundation, not the Nasty Boys. But, he was always with people I kind of cared about. And I was like, or Jimmy Hart was just everywhere. I was like, yo, this guy manages everybody.
Yeah, he had so many people. So you also heard him a lot and saw him a lot with that megaphone. And he always had like guys that were kind of involved in like big dealish kind of things. It's like, oh, Earthquake, but Earthquake is feuding with Hogan right now. Like guys that were kind of up there, like the way Heenan had a bunch of guys. You had like some of your scrubs, but then you had some of your guys that were like near the top of the card.
Like how Byron Saxton had his people in FCW, but no one talks about that.
No, nobody talks about Byron Saxton unless they tell him to shut up. Triple H don't even talk to him. He just hurls him across.
He didn't even know who he was. He thought he was just an extra.
And just threw him across.
He was like, get out of here. We don't got time for you. If Byron Saxton was the next prop, Triple H probably wouldn't have threw him across the ring. And I'm talking about Jake the Snake's snake. He had a ton of different ones, so I couldn't just pick one. But Jake the Snake Roberts coming down with a snake all the time in a bag was pretty cool for me as a kid. I just thought that was pretty badass, seeing a guy come down with a snake.
Oh, it was awesome as a kid. And whether it was, I'm sure it wasn't the same snake throughout the duration, but as a kid, you're led to believe it is. And the first one was Damien. That was always the coolest one. That was the one that had the longest run. And
that's the one that the action figure came with.
Yep. Oh, man, I still have that somewhere.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, yeah, it was really cool. You used to drape it across the guys at the end of the match. It was always a cool visual when he picked it up. And he was Jake the Snake. So the fact that he had a snake, it was awesome.
It was great for 8x10s.
Yeah, oh yeah, he looked cool as hell in those photos, and it worked into stories too. I mean, Earthquake killed Damien; he crushed him.
Yeah, I remember that live. He just sat on him. You didn't see it. He was in the bag.
But Jake's reaction, when he opens that bag, it's so good. It just showed how great Jake the Snake was. That's like one of my favorite Jake moments is him reacting to fake dead snake in a bag. It was awesome.
Damn fake dead snake, but Damien was gone, and then after that, didn't he get Cobra?
No, he had Lucifer because he was still a face, and then when he turned heel, he had the Cobra. I don't know if the Cobra had a name.
Oh, okay.
But he had the Cobra, and that was like biting Macho Man and scaring Elizabeth.
That's the one that I remember. It scared Elizabeth. It bit the crap out of Macho Man nonstop when his arms were tied up in the ropes. Who can't forget that visual.
Oh, I totally remember that visual as a little kid.
And they wanted Macho Man to come out of retirement, right?
What?
Macho Man was coming out of retirement, right, for that match?
No, it was like he was still just like a commentator, and Jake picked a fight with him. Like the story progressed to Macho Man coming out of retirement, but it was just Jake picked the fight. It was because Warrior was leaving. They were building to Jake Warrior, and they had to do something because Warrior pulled his stuff, and it turned to Jake Savage. But like I remember watching that Saturday morning and just being blown away. And then I grabbed my little wrestling figures and I proceeded to have like Jake beat up Macho Man for the rest of the afternoon and like had the snake biting Macho Man. Like I recreated it with the figures.
Well, that's what you got to do. I mean, art imitates life sometimes.
Yeah, it was just such an iconic angle, and it's the snake. The snake is a part of that.
Yeah, the snake. You had the action figure. It came with the snake. Macho Man had to get his arm bit. It's plain and simple.
And it just a really cool prop, just something that he brought around that he was able to work in so well into so many other things. All right, so another one that I like. It seems like a lot of the good ones that we're kind of remembering are the ones from when we were kids. But another prop that I liked, it's simple. But I always liked Big Boss Man's nightstick as a kid.
I like the way he twirled it.
Yeah, that's kind of what sticks in my head. Because I wasn't the biggest Big Boss Man fan. I didn't hate him. But it was
he was there.
Yeah, I was like, all right, Big Boss Man.
I cared about him when he was feuding with Nails. That was the only time I cared about Big Boss Man. I was like, oh, he's fighting somebody and it's Nails and it's an escaped convict. It makes sense. It's the only time I really cared about Big Boss Man.
The nightstick was always cool. And it worked for, who he was. But like the twirling. I always remember the twirling. It always looked super cool. It didn't really add a whole lot. Use it to like hit people. I mean, Nails beat him to death with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a cool looking prop. And he's a prison guard, so like, why wouldn't he have a nightstick? It worked for the character, and it looked cool.
This next prop, it was super useful in the ring, outside the ring, but you didn't have to beat people with it. You just annoyed the crap out of them with it. And that was Bill Alfonso's whistle in ECW. Oh my God, that whistle. Like, I love and hate that prop because I remember it because of how annoying it was. When he would come down with Taz and the way he was blowing that whistle nonstop down the ring. RVD. So, yeah, he was another like Heenan type manager, a Jimmy Hart guy. So he perpetually came down the ring all the time and he was always blowing that whistle.
Yeah, and again, it's basically like Jimmy Hart's megaphone, just a way to be very loud and annoying. And it worked. And I totally agree with you. Bill Alfonso with his voice, yeah, baby, and then blowing that whistle. There was no rhyme or reason. Sometimes he would blow it really long.
Yes.
Small spurts or whatever, but it always worked at getting you annoyed. You knew it was Bill Alfonso, so I think that works. And again, just like a super small and simple thing, a whistle. I mean, remember for SummerSlam where for some reason Mr. Perfect had that dude Coach coming down with him? That dude had a whistle. We're not talking about Coach's whistle. Who cares about the Coach's whistle? But Bill Alfonso's whistle, that was a big deal. And that's an awesome prop. You don't beat anybody with it or anything like that. It worked. You could snatch Alfonso by it.
Yeah, you could choke him by it if you need
to. It's something where it's like it could be used against the guy who has it, which is fun because, that'll get the crowd excited because he uses it to annoy you and now you're using it to hurt him. Yeah. So it works.
To crush his windpipe so you can never use it again.
So it works awesomely like that. So I think Bill Alfonso's whistle is pretty cool. Another prop I liked on a guy that was on the outside was Jim Cornette and his tennis rackets.
Oh, dude, that's one of the best. I think that's a highly memorable prop. When you say Jim Cornette, the first thing I think of automatically is that tennis racket.
Yeah, and I loved how like later on the cases that he would put them in were just ridiculous things. But again, an easy way to kind of draw heat is just kind of like this pompous white guy, and like what do people do that you think of that you don't like? Like tennis and stuff like
or
that.
Golf,
so,
or whatever. But at the time it was tennis.
And tennis works. Again, it could be used as a weapon in the match, but it's, again, something that could be used against him. So it just fits that bill perfectly. And it's one of those things that the guy's synonymous with. It's Jim Cornette. Like, of course, got to have the tennis racket.
Got to have the tennis racket. So with Jim Cornette comes a tennis racket. So with The Undertaker comes a motorcycle? No. Comes the urn.
Yes.
And that is the next prop. How could you forget the urn? That urn went through so many transitions. It was an urn, and then a flashlight came out of it. And then the Godfather, or Kama actually, stole it, melted it down, turned it into a gold chain, and then they had an even bigger urn. It just blew up. It was so weird. And then Mankind got the urn, and it went back to normal size. The urn has been around for ever, but it's one of those props you can't forget.
And when I think the urn, I still think like 91 Undertaker.
Old school, it's the
Undertaker urn. That's like the urn that I think of, but it worked for him. as a kid were buying into like this mysterious character, and it added a sense of awe because it was like his power derives from there. So they found a way to work it into the character well. Just the way Paul Bearer would clutch it, it's like there's got to be something special about this. And then again, you use it a bonk someone or whatever, so it's something you can use to cheat. And it just looks really, it's creepy. It's an urn.
Yeah, it's an urn. Yeah, especially if you know what the contents belong in an urn.
Yeah.
What is he worshiping inside it? Great prop. And it works for the dead man, the Undertaker.
And I really liked when Mankind was coming down with the urn, because he had, you know, the whole like dark crying thing and rocking. So it was always a cool visual, like when he would like kind of cradle the urn close to him and rock with it. So I liked when Mankind had the urn too. It's cool. One prop that worked well for two wrestlers, I feel.
That's how good that prop is.
Another prop that I'm a fan of, that we don't even get to see it anymore, but it had a nice little run. I love Tyler Breeze's camera and selfie stick.
It was ingenious. It was probably one of the best props, like you said, recently, that fits the character perfectly.
And it's a very modern thing, so it's a thing of the time. So because of that, it's new. You know, you've like never really seen a guy come out and do it. And then it just works so well for the self-absorbed character who's always talking about how beautiful he is. It's like, I'm going to look at myself the whole time. You're going to watch me watching me while I come to the ring.
Which is fantastic. His Titantron is a live feed straight from the camera on his selfie stick, which is what a great Titan
it's
video.
So good. And I just remember at the beginning, it was just him and the phone. And then when they introduced the selfie stick, I thought that was magnificent.
Yes.
It's like, what a better way to make this even more annoying, a selfie stick. And then they started decking out the selfie stick. Yeah, they added all that
fur in it that made it look like those dusters you buy at Target that are like multicolored. That's what the selfie stick looked like, but it was like fur, like purple and black fur and stuff. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah, but the selfie stick is great.
It's a real fun thing, and it's just easy to hate, and it works for the character really well.
Because I actually in real life hate selfie sticks. They're so annoying to me.
Oh yeah, same here. That's why it works so perfectly for Tyler Breeze, and that's why I love it so much.
Luckily, the next prop is not a selfie stick. It's actually something you could use not only in the ring, but also to quench your thirst. And that is Gangrel's goblet from the Brood. It carried his blood in it that he spat out during his intro. When he was coming out of the ground in fire, like, how could you not remember and love the goblet of Gangrel?
Yeah, it was cool. Like, the whole intro was fantastic. Yeah. Like you said, under the ground in the fire. But it all ended with, you know, him in the corner drinking from the goblet and pulling a Triple H before Triple H was doing it.
Yeah, spitting blood and laughing out.
And just like the whole walk, the way he held it. The goblet didn't really like factor into matches very often. It wasn't even built up like the biggest thing, but like we said, these are some of our favorite props. And whatever, we like the Brood and we like the goblet.
And the thing is just the Brood has one of the greatest theme song in wrestling history ever. It is the greatest theme song. And we just finished watching the 3rd episode of Edge and Christian's show that totally reeks of awesomeness. And they played the song, and they were in the Brood. So it was really cool to see Christian's impression of Gangrel. And he did it
pretty well.
The smile, the head bob, the way he held it. It was pretty good. The show's actually gotten a lot better. I know last week we said that we saw it and we said just reeked and we were like, carry on.
Yeah, the first one wasn't that great, but this 2 and 3 have had their moments. Yeah. They're not great from beginning to end, but they do have their moments.
They're getting better. Yeah, they're actually moving up, which is fine.
Yeah, so which is cool, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I guess that's why Gangrel's goblet kind of popped into this list. Because of that.
I guess the last one, because we can't spend forever talking about props. Yeah. Like, there's a bunch of other ones that I'm sure we can't remember. There's stuff that people will hopefully like write in and be like, how could you not talk about this? And it's like, because either we didn't like it or we forgot about it.
Or if we would have talked about it, then you would have had nothing to say.
Yeah, you see, we're giving you a reason to say something. But the last one that I could think of that I really, really liked was Head. Al Snow, when he was going crazy. Loved it when it first showed up in ECW, because he was just like kind of slowly losing his mind, and it worked. Like, he's talking to this, you know, mannequin head. It always looked cool when he would come down to the ring bobbing it over his head, and then Paul Heyman was able to find a way to work it into, like, making the crowd a part of it with, like, the free mannequin heads. And, you know, for that small period of time, it's weird. Just like a mannequin head, but you associated Al Snow with it, and that helped him get over. It was really cool.
Yeah, and it had a really catchy theme song. What does everybody want? What does everybody need? And that actually, like, got him from ECW into the WWE, correct? Like, wasn't he in the WWE prior?
He was Leif Cassidy.
Yeah, he was Leif Cassidy.
The New Rockers.
I remember that. And then I saw him in ECW, and I was like, oh, this is Leif Cassidy.
It was like he was just, like, wrestling as Al Snow, and you're like, okay, that was Leif Cassidy. And then he starts slowly going crazy, and Yeah, you took interest, and it was just funny, like him having these arguments with this inanimate object. It always made for some like cool moments. I liked it.
Yeah, it was like a Wilson Castaway before Castaway.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, everybody ripping off WWE.
Yeah, everybody. And that is the last prop.
Yeah, that's the last one we're going to talk about. No titles. Titles are
titles,
different kinds of props.
They shouldn't be props.
But they are.
They are.
Even if they're very held prestigious, they're still props.
Yeah, they are.
In the end, but they're props unto themselves.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's another list for another day. Again, thank you so much for contributing to this episode of PCW and giving us this topic.
Yeah, it was cool.
This is the end of episode 32 of Podcast Championship Wrestling.
Yeah. And
this is Natal saying goodbye for Steve. And remember, we have 2,000 more than you.
The winners of this match, and still PCW Tag Team Champions, the men of 2,000 holds, Natal and Steve!
Look at this guy.
Yes,
Look at that referee's haircut.
Look at that referee's mustache.
What disgusting ref.